Muslims by Ali Mahmood. Episode 5. The Mughals. Babur was 12 years old when he became king. He was descended from Tamerlane on his father's side and from Genghis Khan on his mother's. Immediately, he had to fight for survival. Babur dreamt of glory. He would take Samarkand, the seat of his great ancestor Timur. In 1497, at the age of 15, Babur marched on Samarkand and seized the city. But then he was ousted to discover that meanwhile he had lost his own beloved home at Fergana. His whole world had collapsed. He was now no king at all. He had lost Samarkand and was driven into exile, admitting, "I was reduced to a sore state and wept much." Harassed by rebellion, opposed by his army, without a home, and reduced to a low point in his fortunes, he would fight back. "One or two reverses could not make me sit down and do nothing." Babur took Samarkand 3 times and lost it 3 times. He was no match for Shaybani Khan, the powerful Uzbek general who was lord of Central Asia at the time. Shaybani hounded him, besieged him, took Babur's sister as one of his wives, and reduced Babur's army to 200 men without horses or weapons. Babur wrote, "It passed through my mind that to wander from mountain to mountain, homeless and houseless, had nothing to recommend it." He decided to depart from Fergana. The best hope for a king without a country is to find a country without a king. He would try his luck in Kabul. Kabul was the turning point in his career. Till Kabul, everything went wrong. After Kabul, everything went right. Shaybani, arrogant in his success, made the mistake of insulting Shah Ismail, the powerful founder of the Safavid dynasty in Persia. Ismail defeated Shaybani, had his body cut into little pieces and distributed around Persia, while his skull was embellished in gold as a drinking cup for the Shah. Babur was finally free of his formidable enemy. Babur now prepared the conquest of India. On the 21st of April 1526 at Panipat, Babur's army of 20,000 met the 100,000-strong army of Sultan Ibrahim Lodi. In 5 hours, Babur and his innovative technology of guns destroyed Ibrahim Lodi, and Babur became emperor of Hindustan. When Babur reached Agra, his son Humayun presented him a massive diamond, believed to be the Koh-i-Noor. It did not interest Babur, who just gave it back. The history of this diamond traces the rise and fall of empires. When Humayun fled to Persia, he gave it to Shah Tahmasp in return for asylum. The Shah later gave it to the Nizam in Hyderabad, from where it found its way back to the treasury of Shah Jahan. Nader Shah, on conquering Delhi, took the stone back to Persia. Ahmed Shah Durrani brought the stone back to Kabul. Ranjit Singh brought the stone to Lahore. When the British annexed the Punjab, the diamond passed to the Chief Commissioner, Lawrence, who forgot the stone in his pocket for 6 weeks before sending it to England, where it became the jewel in the crown of Queen Victoria. The last great battle that finally secured him his Indian empire was with the massive Rajput army of 200,000, led by the formidable Rana Sanga, on March 16, 1527 at Kanua. The battle lasted 10 hours, and then victory was his. The treasures of 5 kings fell into his hands. He gave everything away, keeping nothing for himself. Babur had struggled in the wilderness for 43 years. He enjoyed the fruits of his Indian empire for only 5. He died on December 26, 1530. Babur's son Humayun was crowned emperor at the age of 23 in the year 1531. He ruled for 9 years till he was overthrown by Sher Shah Suri. He fled India into exile in Persia as the guest of Shah Tahmasp. He returned to take India after 15 years in the wilderness. He was too self-indulgent, with a love of wine, women and opium, and was no match for his brilliant adversary, Sher Shah. Only after the death of Sher Shah and his son was Humayun able to return to India and win back his crown. He ruled for less than a year when he died in an accident, falling down a steep flight of stairs. On his deathbed, Babur had told Humayun never to act against his brothers. It was the worst possible advice, which Humayun faithfully followed. The combination of his foolishness, the ability of his enemy, and the treachery of his brothers cost him his kingdom. On his return to India, his brother Hindal was killed in battle. Askari was sent on pilgrimage to Mecca, where he died, and Kamran was blinded by the emperor's soldiers, who held him down, stabbing his eyes with a needle and pouring lemon juice to complete the process. Sher Shah was born the son of a small-time Jagirdar. He joined the court of the emperor Babur in Agra, where he decided that he could defeat the Mughals and provide better government than them. Babur, the astute judge of men, remarked when he was told that Sher Shah had fled the court, "I would have arrested him. He is about to do something. God only knows what." Sher Shah defeated Humayun in 1540 at the Battle of Kannauj. He was 54 years old and lamented, "Alas, I have attained the empire only when I have reached old age, when the time of evening prayer has arrived. Had it been otherwise, the world would have seen what I would have accomplished." He ruled India for only 5 years, but what he accomplished in that time was phenomenal. He left a legacy of great roads, hospitals, civil improvements, fair and efficient taxation, and promotion of the economy. His enemies commented about him, "Deceitful and cunning are his ways." He believed the ends justified the means. When his siege of Raja Puran Mal stalemated, he gave his word to the Raja that he would suffer no injury to property or person if he came out of the fort with his family. Sher Shah broke his word and prepared to attack. The Raja cut off the head of his beloved wife and charged to his death. Under Sher Shah's orders, the daughter of Raja Puran Mal was given to a group of minstrels to be brought up as a dancing girl. 3 of his nephews were castrated. Sher Shah met his death in the siege of Kalinjar when supervising the launching of a rocket which exploded and killed him. On the death of Humayun, who fell down the stairs, the 14-year-old prince Akbar was crowned. As a boy, he always hid when his tutors arrived and grew up illiterate. He was uninterested in government. Akbar was the ruler, but it was his able general Bayram Khan who ruled. Akbar's rule was first threatened by the misshapen little Hindu general Hemu, who moved to take Delhi after taking Agra without any resistance. They met at Panipat, where Hemu's troops outnumbered Akbar's army by 5 to 1. Victory seemed certain for Hemu when a chance arrow pierced him in the eye and brought him down. Hemu was captured and killed. Akbar's empire was safe. As Akbar grew, he started to resent Bayram's control. He was married to his cousin Ruqayya, and Bayram married another of his cousins, Salima. Perhaps it was Salima that he really wanted, for when Bayram died, Akbar married the young widow, who remained a favourite wife for much of his life. Bayram's patronage of the Shias at court led to resentment among the Sunni nobles. At the age of 18, Akbar made his move. He was urged on by Maham Anaga, his foster mother, a cunning and ambitious woman eager for the downfall of the powerful Bayram. Akbar wrote to Bayram, "I have now determined to take the reins of government in my own hands, and it is desirable that you should now make the pilgrimage to Mecca upon which you have been so long intent." Bayram was killed by an Afghan assassin on the road to Mecca. Akbar took Bayram's son, Abdur Rahim, into the palace and made him in due time the greatest noble in his realm. Akbar, now free of his dominating but honourable guardian Bayram, now fell under the influence of his corrupt and conspiratorial foster mother Maham Anaga, who pushed into high office her arrogant and conceited son Adham Khan. Adham, in a rage of arrogance and jealousy, killed the prime minister and tried to forcefully enter the emperor's harem. Akbar attacked the intruder with the force of an enraged elephant. A single blow of Akbar's fist smashed Adham's face as though he had been felled by a sledgehammer. He was thrown from the terrace till his neck was broken and his brains dashed out. Akbar went to Maham Anaga and told her what had happened. She merely replied, "Your Majesty did well." 40 days later, she died of grief. Akbar now took full power. He was a man of great physical strength and energy, completely devoid of fear. He had a strong appetite for women, food, wine, and even opium. He loved animals and kept a large zoo. As he grew older, he shed all his passions except his passion for conquest. He expanded his empire, absorbing Bengal, Gujarat, Sindh, Kashmir, and Orissa. Despite being unable to read or write, Akbar was very learned. He devoured knowledge from his courtiers and friends. He was not ashamed of his disability and would say that the prophets were all illiterate. He recognized that a small minority of Muslim invaders could not forever dominate the vast Hindu majority and made moves to win over the Hindus through marriage and equal opportunity. He even tried to create a new religion, Din-i-Ilahi, as a synthesis of Hinduism and Islam, which offended many Muslims. Akbar was a great success as a general and as a ruler, but a total failure as a religious innovator. Akbar's rule was a golden time. Finally, he died and was buried in a mausoleum near Agra. 86 years after his death, a gang of bandits raided his tomb. They stole the treasure, dragged out Akbar's bones, threw them angrily into a fire, and burned them. Jahangir, Akbar's son, was a spoiled young boy, willful, self-indulgent, and lazy. He was addicted to both alcohol and opium. He was the first of the Mughals to rebel against his father and established a tradition. His eldest son, Khusrau, rebelled against him, and also Khurram, who became the emperor Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan's son, Aurangzeb, rebelled against his father. Aurangzeb's favorite son, Akbar, rebelled against him. As the Mughal emperors grew too strong for others to oppose them, the only real threats were to come from their own family, resulting in blinding and killing of brothers and sons. Jahangir fell in love with the daughter of an impoverished Persian courtier who found his fortune in Mughal India as Itimad-ud-Dawla. Destiny was to favour the family of Itimad-ud-Dawla beyond their wildest dreams. Itimad-ud-Dawla became Jahangir's chief minister. His daughter Nur Jahan became empress. His son Asaf Khan became Shah Jahan's chief minister. His granddaughter Mumtaz Mahal became empress. His grandson Shaista Khan became Aurangzeb's closest associate. What the Barmakids had been to the Abbasids, the family of Itimad-ud-Dawla were to the Mughals. The women of this family were to outshine the men in the power game at the Mughal court. His daughter Nur Jahan ruled as empress, while her husband Jahangir drowned himself in alcohol and opium. His granddaughter Mumtaz Mahal became the beloved wife of Shah Jahan, who built the Taj Mahal in her memory. Jahangir's eldest son, Khusrav, rebelled. He was defeated, blinded, and imprisoned for 14 years. This led to the rise of Khurram, the second son, who later ruled as the Emperor Shah Jahan. The two most powerful of Jahangir's family were Nur Jahan and Shah Jahan. He was the crown prince, but she was the de facto emperor. Jahangir died, and Nur Jahan's most powerful supporter, her brother Asaf Khan, turned against her to support his son-in-law Shah Jahan, who was crowned emperor. The first act of the new emperor was to order the deaths of his brother, 2 nephews and 2 cousins as he consolidated power. Shah Jahan was intelligent and able, but he was shattered when the love of his life, Mumtaz, died in the 4th year of his rule. He wept, "Empire has no sweetness, life itself has no relish left for me now." He consoled himself by building the Taj Mahal, a monument to his love. Shah Jahan, the grandson of the great Akbar, was the richest man in the world, but he depleted the massive treasury reserves through extravagance as he grew sick and old. Civil war for succession broke out between his 4 sons. Only one could rule, the rest were destined for destruction. The victor was Aurangzeb, who killed his brothers and imprisoned his father at the Agra Palace, where he lived captive for 7 years till his death, given his every desire except freedom. Aurangzeb never entered his father's presence for as long as he lived. Aurangzeb spurned personal vanity, luxury and ambition. He was a religious man who saw himself as a soldier of Islam. He saw little joy and lived in suspicion of all. He even imprisoned 2 of his sons. He worked hard, was universally respected, but never loved. He combined morality with dedication, bravery with intelligence. But Aurangzeb failed because he attempted to rule a vast empire populated by a Hindu majority on the principles of an ascetic Muslim saint. After 20 prosperous years of rule, in 1679 he attacked the Rajputs, whose Rajas provided the foundation of Mughal rule in India as a bridge between the Muslim rulers and their Hindu subjects. Then, in 1681, Aurangzeb moved his army to Deccan in the south in a campaign that was to last 26 years. He was never again to return north. He lived in tents, moving from battle to battle for the rest of his life. Though the territory of his empire grew, perpetual war in the south failed to secure perpetual peace. War bankrupted the treasury, and the frail but determined emperor, now 89 years of age, prepared for death. He wrote his own epitaph: "Alas, my life has been wasted in vain. I have merely consumed a quantity of water and food." After Aurangzeb, it was over. The Mughals ruled India for another 150 years, but it was decadence and decay. Puppet kings watched their empire crumble. First, the Marathas attacked, then the great Persian general Nadir Shah, who massacred 30,000 and plundered Delhi. In turn, the Mughals were humiliated by the Marathas, the Jats, the Afghans, and the Sikhs, till finally, in 1803, the new power, the British, took control of India. The grateful emperor thanked the British, his faithful servants and well-wishers, for releasing him from Maratha Hindu domination. Public discontent with the cruel racial discrimination of British rule led to uprising in 1857, which the British called the Indian Mutiny, but the Indians called the First War of Independence. The victorious British went on a rampage of revenge. The sons of the emperor were captured and killed, stripped naked and shot. The 82-year-old emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, a poet, and his wife were taken prisoner, kept in dirt and deprivation, and humiliated as animals in a cage. He was convicted as a traitor for rebelling against the company, which had always acknowledged him as their liege lord, but this was not a time for quibbling over the niceties of law. He was exiled to Burma, where he and his family were allowed a budget of 11 rupees a day for their food, with an extra rupee on Sunday. He was buried in an unmarked grave. Thus ended the empire of the family of Timur. The Safavids of Persia. The 16th century Muslim world was dominated by the 3 gunpowder empires, the Mughals of India, the Ottomans of Turkey, and the Safavids of Iran. The Safavids started as a religious sect, but became a kingdom under the 14-year-old Ismail, who became their first ruler. He quickly conquered Tabriz, Baghdad and Khorasan and slaughtered the great Uzbek leader Shaybani Khan. But turning west, he was faced by the formidable Ottoman Sultan Salim the Grim and his 2,000-strong army, whose expertise in the use of artillery was unmatched in the Middle East. In 1514, Ismail was totally defeated at Chaldarin. Salim did not want to waste time in impoverished Iran when the riches of Europe awaited him. He departed. Ismail was a bad loser. He lost all interest in government and withdrew into drunken debauchery. He never again led his troops into war and died at the age of 37. Destiny had matched him with Sultan Salim. Being great is not good enough if your enemies are greater. Ismail was succeeded by his 10-year-old son Tahmasp, who survived and reigned for 52 years despite hostile Ottomans on his west, fierce Uzbeks on his east, and treachery from his brothers back home. Tahmasp received 2 famous political refugees at his court, whom he protected for years. The Mughal Emperor Humayun, fleeing from his nemesis Sher Shah Suri, whom Tahmasp eventually sent with an army to retake his empire. The Ottoman Prince Bayezid, son of Suleiman the Magnificent, who sought refuge with Tahmasp from the rage of his father after his unsuccessful rebellion. Suleiman offered Tahmasp money or war. It was an easy choice. Tahmasp escaped destruction and received a fortune of 400,000 pieces of gold. Bayezid and his 4 sons were executed by his father. Now the Qizilbash nobles who controlled the troops terrorized the blind ruler Khudabanda and demanded that his aggressive wife be removed, saying, "Your Majesty knows that women are notoriously lacking in intelligence, weak in judgment, and extremely obstinate. If she is not removed from power, in all probability, revolts will occur." The queen was strangled. The impotent Shah had no option but to forget the assassination of his wife. But the blind Khudabanda had a son, Abbas, who, brought up in Merv, barely knew his parents. Abbas, like Akbar the Great Mughal, could barely read or write, but his lack of education would not stop him from becoming one of the greatest kings that Iran has ever known. The Shah was forced to abdicate in favor of his 17-year-old son, Abbas. Iran was a mess. Internal anarchy as Qizilbash barons jockeyed for power, invasions of the Ottomans in the west, the Uzbeks in the east, and a treasury that was bankrupt. By 1629, when Shah Abbas died, Iran was stable and strong and had taken back all her lost territories from the Ottoman, the Uzbek, and the Russians. The treasury was full, the economy prosperous, and the new capital, Isfahan, built by Abbas, was the most beautiful city in the world. In the 16th century, the Islamic world had 3 great leaders whose reigns overlapped. Suleiman the Magnificent, who ruled 1520 to 1566. Akbar the Great, who ruled 1556 to 1605. Shah Abbas, who ruled 1587 to 1629. Though not as well known as Suleiman and Akbar, Shah Abbas was certainly equal to them as a king. His Shaykh Lutfullah Mosque, though not as grand as the Mughal mosques in Lahore and Delhi or the Ottoman mosques in Istanbul, is perhaps the most exquisite of all. In 1605, his army faced up to the larger Ottoman army. Risking all in a single battle, he won a decisive victory over the Ottomans. The years passed and he prepared for death, the greatest Persian king for over 2,000 years. But whereas Suleiman and Akbar left alcoholic sons to succeed them, Abbas had no sons left. All 5 of his sons were blinded or dead. After the death of these 3 titans, the 3 gunpowder empires of the Muslim world started their slow but irreversible decline. The last great Persian general was Nader Quli, a military genius never defeated in battle. Born in Khorasan, he earned his living as a boy looking after a few sheep. At the age of 18, he and his mother were captured by Uzbeks living as slaves. Nadir escaped, became a bandit, and captured Meshhed with his small army of desperadoes. Nadir defeated all his enemies, including the powerful Turks and Russians. In 1738, he marched on Delhi, conquering Ghazni, Kabul, Lahore, Sindh, and Kashmir en route. In 2 hours, he took Delhi and the treasure accumulated over centuries by the richest empire on earth. His soldiers massacred, burned, and plundered the city. After Delhi, Nadir changed. Obsessed by his treasure, he became more bloodthirsty and miserly. Many thought he had become insane. Finally, he was killed by 2 of his tribesmen whom he had sentenced to death and who were awaiting their own execution. He lived unloving and died unloved.